Hello and welcome back to awtoolbox.com. My name is Glenn Keller, and in this demonstration, we are just moving forward with our development side of the Active Workspace Client. So in previous demonstrations, we've walked through a lot of the folders and utilities that we can use, and we kind of took a look at some of the legacy tool sets like NPM or Node Package Manager, as well as looked at the newer features, the AW commands, and kind of compared and contrasted those. So in this video, we're going to take that a step further, and we're going to start looking at ways that we can develop that help us out. So in the previous examples, we had to do this build. The build took 5 to 10 minutes each time, and that's not really conducive to developing a new system or new customization. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to talk about some more commands, and we're going to look through building this up again using a dev server. So Active Workspace ships with its own dev server. And really what you need to do in here is just come in. I've got my terminal set up. It is set to the command prompt. I'm in the stage directory, and in the previous videos we had cleared out any of our customizations. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to run ini tenv, set my environment variables, run a CLS to clear, and then I'm going to run aw start. So aw start will go through and it will kick off the development server that essentially does a compile on the process or a build on the process and starts up a secondary place that those changes are going to go to. Right now, my Active Workspace environment is sitting at port 3000, and that's where it's compiled and pushed to. Now it's going to do the build and allow me to essentially see it at 3001. You can see that starting up here. So at the end of this starting process, I should see a new interface in which my changes will be pushed to, not impacting the other interface. So this helps out if you're making changes on the fly in an environment and you don't want to impact the user base until you're ready. But it also allows you to do things like every time you save a file, it's going to run an update on the build and only pick up on the delta. So theoretically, this process should be quicker than the process that we had before. Now, once we get this done, we can also look at building to a local directory rather than going to our file repository. So we'll dive into that as well. Let's give it a couple of minutes to kind of respond here and see what we get with the end of this start process. All right, so it has begun to give me what I needed. You can see in the output down at the bottom here, we now have a Webpack compiled with one warning. The warning is this Babel.js. We know about this. This is a critical dependency of the build. But it is not an error, and we get that straight out of the box. So in here, now I can see I have my actual environment, and then I have my dev server. Should be still connected to the same environment, so I'm just going to go ahead and log in and see if it gives me the same environment. Now, this is not going to be built to the same standard as a production build, but it does give you all of the same features and bells and whistles. So let's go ahead and go through our development process to see what we have with this dev setup. So in here, the one thing that you will note is that this terminal is now locked. So if I want this to run, I have to keep this up and running. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to create a new command prompt. And you can see my node window here, which was my command prompt before. And now I have my new command prompt here. So at this point, I should be able to come in and run an ini tenv. And then I can do an aw add kit. So if I do this, press enter, I'll go through the motions of building a command out. The name of the kit is the T7_kit. I'm going to, once I have that kit, you can see it on the left-hand side. And then if I look at my node, come over here, you can see that the Webpack is still compiled. It's not really doing anything here. So I'm going to flip back over to my command, and I'm going to go ahead and do aw add module. Now I'll need to pick my kit as a part of this module. So specify the name of the module. I'm going to do t7 underscore module. And then once I do the t7 underscore module, you'll see that the module is then added to the kit. So I'm getting my same structure that I typically would get. And now I'm getting my source folder with all of my subdirectories for files that I would need. Finally, I'm going to come back over to the node. It still hasn't compiled anything. And I'm going to add, I'm going to say aw add command. And at that point, it should go in and ask me all the questions that I need. So I'm going to call this my t7 underscore cust command. Then I need to pick an icon for it. So I could pick anything I want. I'm going to just use the arrows, the arrow down. I found the yellow glossy plastic, which is what we're using in this case, and I'm going to keep that there. We will talk about icons and add icons to the system at a later point, but for now we're just going to use that. The title of the command is going to be training command. I'm going to hit enter. And then last time we did a simple command. We could use a toggle, we could use a group, a shuttle, a ribbon. We'll go through those different types of commands next time, but for now, let's just keep it simple. Is the command a group? I'm going to say no. And then I'm going to add it to my global toolbar. So in here, you can see there's a whole bunch of different ones. The area work area toolbar, the placements, there's a whole bunch. So I could do context, which is the right menu option. So if I came down, there'd be a context menu 2, which gives us access to the right menu. Last time we did global navigation bar. This time I'll do context menu 2, hit enter. Is this going to be a simple JavaScript function, a pop-up? Last time we did a pop-up, which gave us a nice little panel. This time we're going to do a JavaScript function and hit enter. So at this point, it has created those elements. And if I come back to Node, notice it still says it's compiled with one warning. So I'm going to come back into the command. And if I come into here, switch over to Node, I'm going to update something in here, like 2, and hit save, and notice it's not really picking up on too much in the Webpack compilation. If I refresh my browser window on the 3001, and then come in here and go to my author workspace, at that point, I can go into my Explorer, and what you'll see is the command has not been added. So if I right click something, I don't get anything into the right click menu that's been added for any of these objects. So simply adding a new kit to the system with a new module doesn't do anything to fire off the update for this. Now, if I do a Control-C on this, now that I have that stuff there, and then do an AW start again to start up that client again, then it should build in my custom modules. So you can see T7 kit is right here. Now it's launching my new local host. And then once it picks up on that, I should see my new build. And now that's going to register that with the development server, and it's going to track changes to those files over time. Let's go ahead and give it a moment so that my interface responds, and then we'll come back and take a look at what we get. All right, it's beginning to come back now. You can see it's still blue. It says it's been compiled with one warning. So we're just waiting for the interface to respond. We can see it now. I'm going to go to Explorer. And at that point, I can right click something in the box and you can see my training command 2 shows up. If I click it, I get an error because of whatever it's trying to do. But that's okay. That isn't the end goal here. I was just trying to see if the command would show. So I'm going to go back to 3001. That'll take me back to the Active Workspace Client. And I'm just happy to know that all of that is popping up. Okay, so now I'm going to make a quick change to this. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to change the title to say new instead. Save it, and now that this is a part of the original build, you can see in here that the change has detected the new setting. So there's been a change to it, and we need to just kind of make sure that this builds correctly with that new change. The change that we're seeing here is in the compilation. Let me clear this out real quick. You can see Webpack has finished compiling, the change was detected, and everything in between that is it picking up on that change. So I haven't had to do anything here. I just right click now and you see it still says training command 2. So I'm going to refresh this. You can see that build took active pretty quick. And now it says training command new. So this dev server is really nice, but you do need to get all the files created before you run it. If you don't, it can't pick up on the change from when it started. It is a faster process of making quick modifications to the system. I think that this build only takes about a minute versus the full audit, build, and publish sequence that we were going through before. So the start server is something that we're going to use once we get all the modules built. If you want to shut down the server, you just do simply a Control-C. That server is no longer available here, so you can see it's no longer accessible. And then if you wanted to, you could then deploy it out to the rest of your system. So if all that looked good, we can run AW build and let that go through. So in here, it hasn't quite picked up on that yet. I'm on the 3000 prompt. And if I right click at the moment, you can see my button isn't there. So once this completes the build, we'll be able to go through and just validate that the new component is in that location. So let's hold off. We'll come back once it's done, and then we'll validate the rest of this. All right, so that final deployment to the original interface is made. If I right click at the moment, I haven't refreshed yet, so I don't have it. Let's go ahead and refresh here. And at this point, when I right click the home button, I now have my new training command, which if I click it, doesn't do anything. So at this point, we have now created a template for a JS command as well as a pop-up command. We'll go into the details on what controls those commands at a later time, but we have also now done builds directly to the interface as well as utilizing a development server to fast act or make quick changes in the system that pick up on the Delta. In a future video, we are going to go further with this and we're going to look at alternate ways that we can do development in the platform. But again, each way has its own benefits and drawbacks, and we really just want to focus in on how we're going to be doing the development.